Good late Tuesday, early Wednesday, meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center right now, giving you that weather update as we're staying Florida State strong the best we can here. I know I do these updates pretty late, and as we're just looking at things, I want to get that latest data in here. And you see the marginal risk continuing for areas of South Georgia and a little bit of North Florida here on that Wednesday for some strong to severe storms in an isolated manner. Not a huge deal, a 1 out of 5 risk, but wind and hail possibility, and that those could get to severe limits. That means damaging gusts in a very isolated nature to about 60 miles an hour, and then also hail there to about a 1 inch or so in diameter. So just stay weather aware. The rain chance isn't all that high, only about 30%, but we're starting to get that summertime pattern a little bit to some degree with these warmer temperatures. I know it's important to stay hydrated, and also we have to watch out for that wildfire risk too for the areas that don't get the rain because it's so warm and you have lightning, and that can be hazardous. So definitely something, that will have to be monitored here, that overall pattern here with the meteorology as we're looking at things. Again, on Wednesday, that day ahead, you have that risk toward the north. We also have a fog threat here in play as well. But I know this broadcast overall is going to take on a pretty heavy tone as there's a lot to talk about here as we try to stay Florida State strong and Florida State united. I'm a proud graduate of Florida State University, and it's been just a terrible, terrible last week or so now as we're looking at things a little less than a week with what has transpired there toward my alma mater. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see, and it's just a terrible thing. I know I was there last June, going to some FSU baseball games there after the passing of my father, and it's just a situation where, just looking toward Florida State University is something where you want to just try to enjoy here, kind of relax and kind of, I wanted to see that student union there, the new one for the first time. Of course, I was there going back 2012 to 2016 when they had the old student union toward Florida State University. That was there, the Oglesby Union, and it's a situation where now we've had another terrible tragedy strike there with that deadly mass shooting Thursday there toward Tallahassee. I'm just going to kind of step out of the shot now here as we talk for a while. There's just a lot to get to. There's so much to get to, quite honestly. I have a note here. We don't normally do that here on Cloud Weather, but there's just so much to talk about, in such a terrible situation. This is something here as we're looking toward that union. It's so beautiful, and now we've had heartbreak here. And I know I was very saddened to hear the news of last Thursday's deadly Florida State University student union shooting. Now, while it's safely in Stark during this terrible event, is a rather different story a little after midnight on Thursday, November 20th, 2014. There's a look there out of my residence hall window there at Cawthon Hall in the middle of the night after we had a shooting there. You see, it's about being FSU United then, it's about being FSU United now as well. I know I was sitting fairly close to a window at my desk in my room working on a course essay. I was a student there at the time, and I'm a proud Florida State University grad, as I was alluding to. And the residence hall room was on the ground floor in Cawthon there. This is just across from Strozer Library. It was one of the coldest nights in my 4 years at Florida State, where the low temperature got down to a daily record of 23 degrees in town there, out at the airport to be precise, where the official measurements are capped. You don't get temperatures that cold that time of year, or again, much at all there at Florida State, but especially in November before Thanksgiving to have a hard freeze like that. As you're looking at the situation, I know the heater, it was running very loudly when I heard some noises over that. These seemed out of the ordinary, but I was not overly concerned, at least at that point. Now, moments after, though, on my way to the restroom there, I noticed the residence hall room door was not locked, and as a precaution, I locked it. In the restroom, I heard what sounded more like gunshots there, and lots of them. And then that was followed by calm. And in hindsight, this is probably when the active shooter in 2014 was neutralized. Right after heading back to my desk, alarms started going off to warn of a dangerous situation on campus. Didn't say active shooter officially. I know they changed the system since then, but it's probably already over by the time the alert came out. This is how it works. Unlike severe weather, with a situation like this, you're just trying to get the threat taken care of as quick as possible, no matter what, whether you get the alert out there. I mean, it's all about every second counting there. In these type of situations, the same thing might have happened this time, that it was all taken care of before the alert came out. But it's a scenario there where this is so important. If you are in an active shooter situation, which we hope folks aren't ever in these, but obviously folks, including myself to some degree, I was there back in 2014. And you just when you have these type of scenarios, it's important that you run from the danger if you're in that threat there, and then if you're still you're in a spot where you really can't run, then you hide, and then if it comes to the absolute worst, and this is last chance for survival, worst case scenario, you gotta fight here. We don't want to have to talk about these things, but unfortunately, the situation again is not like severe weather. It's not something you forecast. You kind of just have to know them. Sadly, that's just the way it's been here the last while now. You just got to keep those precautions in mind. As I know, I talked to my roommate about what I thought I heard a few minutes before, and a classmate who worked for a local television station near campus heard the alarms, then posted on Facebook. He was wondering what was going on, and I messaged them about what I thought could have happened. Myself and my roommate then proceeded to call our parents to let them know that we were safe. My beloved late dad, I know, talking about him, William Russell Cloud, passed away last year at the age of 85, and this photo was taken there same day I graduated back in 2016. Ended up being what we used for his obituary. It was such a great photo of him, and his funeral was 1 year ago yesterday on that Tuesday. So, it's just a lot of stuff hitting home in so many different ways as we're looking here. And I know he was still up at this point, and why he did not, or did I know the full gravity of the situation, then it felt important to let him know that I was safe in this type of situation. I know this is especially so as to this day, one Florida State University student sadly remain paralyzed there from their injuries. And it's a scenario here, it's just awful to think about. It's absolutely awful, the lifelong consequences here of actions by folks. It's just awful to think about here. They remain paralyzed from the injuries suffered in the 2014 shooting event there at Stroger Library. I made it back to my room around 10 p.m. from Swanee Room, the campus dining hall, on that terrible night the week before. On late Wednesday night and early Thursday morning, I believe the week before as well, I was at Doak Campbell Stadium in Stroger Library in the night, finishing up editing a video report for a course at Florida State University, reporting there, and just using special computer editing software which highlighted veterans organizations like Stark American Legion Post 56 from my dad. He was a past commander of Post 56 there, and also the historian, I believe, at the time. And then just later on in the night, as the news spread, television news coverage started to ramp up. I remember the 3:15 a.m. press conference there where it was announced that classes were still on for the day ahead before reversing course and canceling for that day as things, started to become more clear there. And classes did come back, though, reopened the next day on Friday. I know it was surreal to watch, my TV there in my residence hall room, my small television, looking at that and seeing in the middle of the night legendary WCTV anchor Julie Montanaro field anchoring live there from the drop-off and pickup spot that my parents used so much feet away from me and in front of Cawthon Hall there. It's just crazy to have that. And then as the day went on, many more news outlets arrived on the scene. All the local Jacksonville stations were in town with news for Jax bringing Kent Justice to field anchor just outside my window. First Coast News brought multiple anchors in, and Action News Jax was right outside as well. WALB News 10 came down from Albany too. And with classes canceled that day and deadline sifted around at extra time, and went to the Love Building to do weather for the FSU Weather Show that night. And now, why I'm very much, into broadcasting and meteorology, I actually am a fairly shy person and made sure to avoid the reporters, believe it or not, in front of the library. I only wanted to talk weather. On the way home, though, I stopped back from the weather building. And everybody's different. Some folks, just want to talk it out. And some folks, sometimes like me, I may talk with my parents, but otherwise, kind of keep it there, where, you always think about what happened in some ways. But I know on the way home, though, I stopped at Subway in the old Florida State University Student Union. As far as the new one, I know Subway, they tore it down when they built the new union. And I quickly grabbed my dinner and walked very fast back to Cawthon Hall after the fire alarm started to go off and everyone was evacuated. So I know, just crazy situation, but luckily nothing ended up being, in progress or anything like that. I believe it was some smoke somewhere, or maybe some type of visual causing that, from what I vaguely remember there. But so nothing was wrong, but still kind of just Roy hyped up, Roy on edge would be the right way to describe it in a situation like that. And it's something there where you thought something else might be happening. Now, later that night, while talking to my parents on the phone and seeing some of the local Jacksonville news anchors still in the distance there, like Santa Ogden, formerly of First Coast News there in Jacksonville, WTLV and WJXX, it's now in Denver. It started to really hit me about what happened around 20 or so hours before, give or take. It may be in just a little bit longer than 20 hours, but somewhere in that range. I know, in a cruel irony, we have some, more news here to get to now, as we kind of look at things here. John Thrasher, the former Florida State president there that led us through that 2014 shooting aftermath here. I know some news there, and as we look at the aftermath of the shooting there at the library again. He led us through that, and he's been diagnosed with cancer now. It's been announced. So he's battling that, and just terrible to hear that news here. Just so many things coming together in that sad way here. My thoughts and prayers there go out to him and his family during this difficult time. And then as we go ahead, though, again, just the shooting situation, and then that Saturday after, the 22nd, there was hope that things would be closer to normal with a home football game that afternoon, ABC against Boston College. Now, sadly, though, that morning, a Leon County deputy was shot and killed with another injured in North Tallahassee. The game still did go on. But rain came in earlier than forecast, and many left early. While I really did not think I would need it, I brought my poncho just in case. Now, I stuck it out to the end as the Noles won in the final seconds on a game-winning field goal to keep their then 26-game winning streak going. And now another cruel irony here. Sadly, we talked about John Thrasher now being announced on Tuesday battling cancer. Now, in another cruel irony, Mike Patrick, ESPN's play-by-play voice, who called that game on ABC and on ESPN2, instead in parts of the country, it was regionalized there, reverse mirror type scenarios, how it was called back then. Now, I got word on Tuesday that he passed away at age 80. That was back on Sunday, and prior to becoming a national sports broadcasting figure, he worked in the First Coast region there at WJXC Channel 4 in Jacksonville, a late legendary meteorologist and proud Florida State University graduate George Winterling in the early to mid 1970s. Now, before the shooting, I had thought about not going home for Thanksgiving break because I wanted to be in town for the Florida State home football game the following Saturday. I didn't stick around, for that in 2012, my first year there. I wanted to go home with a full break, but this is my one chance to go to a Florida State football game there as a student in Tallahassee. And it was important, though, for me to go with my parents to start after that. I headed home Tuesday, but got back Friday to be there for that game on Saturday there, Saturday, November 29th. Now, I resided in Cawthon Hall my first 3 years there at Florida State University, but partially because of what happened, I decided I wanted to change things up and lived in Traditions Hall my final year there. And knowing the shooting happened late at night in a place that I could mostly avoid, mostly avoid going there often, as there are other libraries on campus, and I could also just always study in my room too. Just thinking about that helped, as I only went a few more times there on my last a little over 3 semesters or so on campus. The rest of that fall, then you had spring. I was interning this summer there, and then in the fall back there again in the spring of 2016. I know it's something where that really helped there, but I really feel bad, for just everybody, in this situation. But uh, you know, I feel bad for the current FSU students, faculty, and staff that want to use the student union and the community too. There, as it is a really, really nice and new state-of-the-art facility, but it is going to probably be tougher to get past since these were two apparent murders in broad daylight in an area that is going to be more, you wanted it to be more about fun and relaxation, but now it's about somberness here. I know a very heavy feeling on campus. So as we're looking at things there toward Tallahassee, all the different reports coming in, my thoughts and prayers are with the entire Florida State University community during this very difficult time. I know alumni like myself, we're trying to be, FSU united with everybody, and then we want everybody to stay Florida State strong. This is very tough, very difficult. My thoughts and prayers are especially with those a part of the extended FSU Weather family, as the fairly new EOAS building there is very close to the FSU Student Union. And now, while I do not know any of the current students personally, several shared video with and or appeared on local affiliates and national broadcasts to tell their stories in the immediate aftermath of the shooting. Now, following social media some, and then I also still watch parts of the FSU Weather Show on YouTube from time to time, and I was really glad to see familiar names there and faces safe. And in all the interviews I watched, each one did an exemplary job telling their stories after facing a situation that no one should ever have to deal with. And I am so sorry that this happened again at the great university that FSU truly is. Florida State, one of the best universities in the country here, but sadly another terrible tragedy occurring 2014 and now 2025. Kind of in some ways when I was there, it's not, something that's really rooted in fact, obviously, but you kind of think, well, you went through it once, there won't be another one while you're there. That was true, but, it's a situation where you would never really think there'd be one to begin with in some ways, and now a second one at the same school here, and just over a decade apart. Just terrible turmoil here, in the community though too, over the last decade or so. I know from these shootings to the deadly 2018 shooting at a yoga studio to COVID-19, and then also to the passings of Bobby Bowden, Mike Martin Sr., and George Winterling. Impacts from Hurricanes Hermine, Irma, Michael, Dahlia, Debbie, Helene, a blast flood emergency last April, tornadoes last May, this year's winter storm, and even FSU quarterback Jordan Travis's gruesome injury in 2023. The Tallahassee and FSU community has been through a lot, obviously, in the last decade or so. my thoughts and prayers, they remain with the family and friends of those who passed away on Thursday. Robert Morales and also Chiru Chaba there, and the innocent victims who were injured in the attack, and the entire Knowles family. It's just, just everybody impacted, keeping you in my thoughts and prayers during this very, very, very difficult time. And additionally, thank you to law enforcement, first responders, and healthcare workers for your response as we try to stay Florida State University strong and Tallahassee strong here. I know you see this reunion again after my father passed away. Went to FSU for some baseball games. Hadn't been to FSU baseball games in a while since I believe before COVID-19. They did good in those. Did good tonight actually against Stetson there. Everybody had the situation there where folks came in to honor the first responders and the like there. But then that union, a place of comfort even for me. I wanted to see it. First time, the new building, and now you're always going to think about this. I mean, this happened in broad daylight. The Schroeder Library shooting in 2014, it didn't happen at night. It happened when, even though, I mean, not that night, but weeks before, I'd been out late working on, like, reports as I described here. This conventional wisdom says, well, sometimes bad things, sadly, can happen when it's dark. They're no more likely, but in broad daylight, too, murders, apparent murders in the student union, is just absolutely awful. Absolutely awful to think about. And it's gonna, be something, months even, you're gonna be thinking about this, sadly. And I just hope everybody, keeping you guys in my thoughts and prayers here. I know as we're looking there. And if you guys need to talk about anything, any FSU students there, anybody impacted, you can message me on the different platforms that I'm on here, and I'll try to get back with you as soon as possible. And then also, FSU has services available as well. I know they have more information on that on their various websites there, social media sites there, and the like. So, just so important to cover this. I know it's not, directly weather related in a lot of ways. Or even really weather related at all, but in some ways, most ways. But it's a situation here we got to talk about. It's something that's a really, really big deal that happened in Tallahassee, happened in Leon County there. As we're looking at things, as we're tracking things, it's just a somber thing here. As we're looking there toward Florida State University. But we're going to get through this together, folks. We're at Florida State strong. And we're just going to, try to get through this just as very much as we can here. As we're looking at things, of course. I'm in Bradford County. Leon County is where it happened there. As we're looking at things here. And it's just going to be something that is going to take time. I mean, sadly, it's a different, aspect for me, but I know it well, it's impossible to replace a hole in your family, and folks have that because of what happened there last Thursday in the Florida State University student union there in Tallahassee. It's just absolutely awful, absolutely sobering as we're looking at that there toward Tallahassee. When I heard the news last Thursday, it just took my breath away, really, hearing that it happened again. It happened again there toward Tallahassee. This is something that it's just going to be a bad, lasting memory for the rest of, I know it's the one that happened at FSU when I was there. It'd be a lasting memory for the rest of my life, and then the ones there, folks there this time, lasting the memory for the rest of their lives, your lives, depending on who's watching here right now. It's just heartbreaking. As I'm going to come back in front of the wall now again, this terrible, terrible tragedy that did occur toward Florida State University for the Garnet and Gold, is what it's all about here. As we're looking, it's just, trying to be Florida State University strong. Now, I also want to talk about something else that's somber here, a little bit different though. Now, in memory, talking about my grandfather here, not in relation to what happened at FSU in this case, but in World War II, he passed away 80 years ago on Tuesday. There, my father who passed away 1 year ago. As we're looking at things here in the War to Weather Center. Uh, 1 year ago, I had his funeral 1 year ago on Tuesday. His father is who passed away 80 years ago on Tuesday. And because, World War II, my dad grew up without a father. I mean, for the most part, he did, have him around a little while for a few years. Remembered him some, but, James Henry Russell Cloud there on a memorial there in Savannah, Georgia. And I had some of this graphic for Memorial Day over the years, but 80 years now he's been gone, passing away there in 1945 in World War II overseas. As we go ahead and look, we got to keep everybody's memory alive here in the Weather Center. As we go ahead and see our area again, of course, from Bradford County, but then that rainfall forecast the next 7 days here, as we're looking at things, as we're tracking things here in toward the Weather Center. I know you can go to cloudweather.com/radar for interactive look at things when I'm not on the air here. Or even when I'm on the air, but you see a little bit more rain possible South Georgia here, an inch or so next 7 days on average. Some areas will get more. Other areas in our region won't get too much. I know we still have areas, like Cedar Key, recovering from Hurricane Helene and even Idalia from the year before. So a lot of heavy topics tonight. A lot of somberness in hurricane season. It's a little over a month away, but right now actually we're concerned about a wildfire danger here. We were alluding to it last week. Now this only updates once a week, but as we're kind of looking at things here in toward the Weather Center, I know that drought becoming a bigger issue there. You see some of our southern areas here getting in toward that enhanced type of elevated concern as we're looking at things, as we're tracking them here. And even South Florida, you see a extreme drought here, and that can be a big problem. Just gotta be ready in these wildfire situations as well here. Just gotta be prepared for those threats. Also, fog possible here as we're looking ahead. So just make sure you're slowing down and giving yourself extra time to reach your destination. Make sure your vehicle is visible as possible to other vehicles where you're using your low beam headlights, and leave plenty of room between you and the vehicle in front of you here. I mean, in some ways, we could have, we have somehow in some little area of fog and smoke mixing, that can be an issue. And also, even, if you're distracted because of maybe what happened at Florida State University there in the Ward Tallahassee, it's something here where this is something that can be really, really dangerous, and you gotta be paying attention to it. And also, whenever thunder roared, whether it's pretty isolated or not, you want to go indoors. I know thunder is possible, sadly, because of what happened. Some folks may end up being diagnosed with PTSD there because of what happened. Isolated nature there to Ward Tallahassee, and if thunder rumbles could even really startle them. I mean, at some point in time, some people it's going to take more time than others to be able to kind of recover from what happened there at Florida State University. The ones that did make it out there, as we're looking toward Leon County. But as we go ahead and look here toward that planning forecast, looking at North Florida and South Georgia, isolated strong and severe storms possible at times. 30% chance of rain on that Wednesday. These rain chances are a little bit interesting here because, as you're maybe studying for exams, whether you're at FSU, I know some situations a little bit different. Again, watch out for thunder, lightning. There is, what would be causing that thunder, but the lightning is the dangerous part of things. But, UF as well, be careful here. And the other, colleges and universities around. As we're looking at things, just, golf courses even. You think the weather is a little warm, but you want to play around the golf, but then all of a sudden, thunderstorm comes up on you, and 30% chance here of rain again on Wednesday, 30% on Thursday, 20% on Friday, 30% on that Sunday, though, as we're looking ahead. And then you see Monday there, 30%. Tuesday there, just falling back down. So up and down, 20, 30, however you're going to slice it there as you're looking. And then that's something where, again, it's a little tricky because it makes it look like, well, 20, 30, I mean, I'm not going to get rain, but more than likely, most of it is going to have thunderstorm activity at some point in the next 7 days. Because if you add these all together, that's way over 100%. It's not how you normally think of this, but as you're looking there, I know on Saturday rain chances dropped some there as we're looking, but it's coming up to 90 degrees. I know early that morning, as I understand, the Pope's funeral will be being broadcast here as we're looking at, again, adding that somber tone here as, it's just so much to talk about there. And I mean, this is probably, just overall about the heaviest update we ever had to do. And it's stuff, there's so much death, to be quite honest, we've had to talk about. But as we're looking here, we just try to move on the best we can. But we're trying to stay strong in the process. You can't always maybe, move on fully. I know I miss my dad so much still, even a year later, and will for the rest of my life. But as we go ahead and look here, you can see these, averages here. We're starting to get up there a little bit with those, but we're way above that with the advertised. As alluding to my dad there, he passed away last year at age 85, as we were talking about earlier, if you weren't with me. But the funeral 1 year ago yesterday on the 22nd, 80 years ago yesterday as well. My paternal grandfather, his dad, passed away in World War II overseas. Again, in combat there, as we're looking at things. Let's just try to get through these, days ahead, weeks ahead with what happened at Florida State University. Stay united, stay strong here, folks. I'm here for you guys if I can help. I know, there's a lot of other folks you can talk to as well. Like the folks there that are trained to help you at Florida State University. They have resources available here, so you can maybe talk things out in some cases, but other cases you might need a lot more than that here to try to get past what happened. So again, that's kind of the storyline right now here in the Ward Weather Center as we look at things, as we remember everybody, those 2 innocent lives there taken as we're looking toward Tallahassee. I mean, you're thinking of Robert Morales, Tiru Saba there. I mean, it's just absolutely awful here what happened as we're looking here at what happened toward Leon County. I think we're going to try to wrap it up here in just a moment. I do have some things to see on the Doppler real quick. Let's see out toward Texas here. We actually have some stronger storms here toward Lone Star State right now. So I'm going to go ahead and see that here in this late hour. I'm going to see if there's any questions or comments from any of the viewers watching live here at home on any of the different platforms. I don't see anything here, but again, let me go ahead and jump back on over toward the Doppler radar technology. I'm going to go ahead and say the what's information that's in play here. I'm going to step out of this shot again as we go ahead and give you guys a look at things here as we continue to track the overall scenario here. You see severe thunderstorm watches in play and around areas there in northern Texas. You see severe thunderstorm warning there around Wichita Falls, just north of there, in fact, getting into southern Oklahoma. 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and nickel-sized hail possible through about 2:15 a.m. Central Time. See, I'm just going to discuss in there in play, and you see flash flood warning there between some of these communities there, like east of Brownwood, Texas. And then you have, wow, goodness gracious. Look at that, down toward areas there, headed toward, looks like the Uvalde area there and toward Texas. They've been dealing with tragedy over the last few years there as well. Warning is for 3-inch hail there. Maybe headed just east based on track on this here. Not sure to pronounce this community. Maybe going just east of there. But our radar is actually showing An absolutely incredible 4.41 inches on the hail side. I don't know if I've seen that early. This is the middle of the night. It's pretty awful here, folks, and they're not even in the severe thunderstorm watch. We could be talking about hail 3 to 4 inches in diameter here as we're looking, as we're tracking there. This is live at if you're watching on recording, it's one thing, but if you're watching at 1:50 Central Time on Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025, then this is live 2:50 a.m. Eastern Time. We have a destructive severe thunderstorm situation in the Uvalde area per se, but little north. It may be headed a little east of there, based on what I'm seeing, but nonetheless, areas of Uvalde County there in Texas. You know, this is considered a destructive storm for areas around Reagan, Wells, and the vicinity. One of the worst hail producers in the middle of the night I think I've seen meteorologically here. As we're looking at things, you just hate seeing that there again. Watching that, I mean, this is our hail product. If you're wondering what that white is, that's 3 to 4 inch diameter hail that's been indicated here on the Doppler perspective. And the Weather Service says it's at least 3 inches based on their assessment. Let's see if they've confirmed this. Let's see, I have the reports on there. And it's radar indicator. It is the middle of the night. It's been in a rural area. But 3 inch hail, 60-mile-an-hour winds. That is huge hail here, folks. You're talking about stuff that can really cause major damage. You know, we had that hail here looking back toward Gainesville, here toward Alachua County, I guess about a week and a half. It's been almost 2 weeks ago. And a scenario there where it was getting up to 2 inches in size. But this could be 3+ inches in diameter. So that's very, very nasty, obviously. Let's go ahead and see that local view one more time as again we continue to stay Florida State University strong. Florida State strong here after everything that transpired, everything that happened there. You know, again, it's just always going to be on our minds here what took place. Just like November 20th, 2014, it was a fateful day. So was there April 17th, 2025. Here's one more look, though, at that 7-day. We're going to leave you at that. Have a great night. Stay safe. We'll break in if needed on some of these strong and severe storms in the days to come here around. I mean, the rest there, we've been watching toward Wednesday, but even Thursday could have some, even any of these days could end up having some strong storms. Some days chances for severe will be higher, other days lower, but not a huge threat. Not alert mode type of weather, but a situation we're going to be monitoring and cutting it if it as needed. We also can just post it on Facebook, KC Cloud WX, Facebook Clouds Weather, Twitter /Lexit Cloud Case if you don't need to actually cut in. So those are options here as well that I have, you know, in my toolkit. So that's going to go ahead and do it for now. Have a great night. Stay safe. I'll be back here with more in the days to come from the Weather Center. Florida State University is strong is what we're going to try to be.